Jack, how long did you serve in the military?
Let's see, did 10 years in the Navy, 1986, 1996.
Yeah.
Multiple deployments, especially Westpac. You know, I was on the Midway, stationed out of Japan, and we would be gone quite a bit.
Yeah. So you did 10 years in the Navy, cruises in the Western Pacific, or Westpac, as we said.
Indian Ocean, the Persian Gulf.
Indian Ocean, Persian Gulf, and so 86 to 96. So you've got the Persian Gulf War in there. And you didn't? Did you do any deployments specifically related to the Persian Gulf War of the early 90s?
No, I didn't. I was in the Fallon, Nevada, at the VFA 125 training squadron for the F-18s.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So what was your work with the
aviation ordnance? I would assemble and handle any of the munitions that the aircraft required.
Okay. So just tell us about. So you're on the aircraft carriers. You're on which carriers are you on?
I was on the USS Midway, and then I commissioned the USS George Washington.
Okay, so I was in the Navy, and so I watched. I was up on the bridge a lot, so I looked down on the flight deck, and saw a lot of guys doing a lot of stuff. So what were you doing on the?
I was the red shirt.
Okay, yeah, the red shirt guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what would a typical job involve?
If you were assigned to ship's company, you would work in the magazines assembling the weapons, or then transporting them from the magazines to the flight deck.
Taking them up in the elevator.
And then if you're attached to the air wing, you would load them onto the planes.
Okay. So your job involved actually putting the weapons together and...
Yes.
And then getting them up to the flight deck, and then the other guys took over from there. Okay.
And then once I would transfer to a squadron, then I would be loading the planes
as well
as what I did with the VFA 125 in Fallon, Nevada.
Yeah. So what kind of planes did you arm then?
Yeah, those the carriers at that time, they carried F-18s, A-6s. The E-2s, C-2s, SH-3 Sea King helicopters, which carry torpedoes and sonobuoys. Then when I went to the VFA 125, it was a training squadron for the F-18s. Then I would load and arm.
Okay, and that was in Nevada.
Yes.
That training base. Okay. Just real quick, just run down the list. I tell folks that if you want to travel and you're thinking about the military, the Navy's probably the best branch, right?
For traveling and seeing countries, the Navy would do it, but I tell you, after going to the Air Force, and it was the Air National Guard, the Air Force treats people pretty good.
Oh yeah, okay, so you like that too. So you did Navy and then you did Air Guard. Just real quick, if you could run down the list of countries you visited while you're in the Navy.
The Navy, so you got Japan, Philippines, Australia, Thailand, Hong Kong, Singapore, Dale Garcia, Mombasa, Africa, Jebel Ali, which is a port in Dubai.
Wow.
Did I get Hong Kong, Singapore?
Yeah, Hong Kong, Singapore. You mentioned Dale Garcia too.
Which is the footprint of freedom in the Indian Ocean.
Little island, yeah.
And then from the East Coast, went to England, France, Greece twice, Israel.
Really?
Turkey.
Port calling Israel.
Yeah, Haifa.
Wow, I didn't know that happened.
Wow. Not anymore, I don't think.
Oh, okay.
I think it's just tensions over there a little too much.
Yeah.
I think.
How about Italy?
We were supposed to go to Italy, and then we had just finished a 30-day rotation in the Persian Gulf.
Okay.
Come through the Suez Canal to go to Italy for a protocol.
Yeah.
And Saddam Hussein had pushed to the southern border of Iraq again, which made us turn around and go right back through the Suez Canal.
Oh, this is post-Gulf War and trying to keep Saddam Hussein contained.
Right.
That something similar. I was on the Ranger. We were on our way to Mombasa, which I was looking forward to seeing a new port. Something happened with Iran, and so we had to go deal with that. I don't know what that was. So you were 10 years in the Navy, but then you're also in the Air Guard.
Air National Guard.
So what was the transition? Tell us about.
So when I in 2006, I decided to go back in military, and I decided the Air National Guard instead of Army. So I went in with the Fort Smith unit, the 188th Fighter Wing, and
so Arkansas Guard.
Arkansas Guard, and they were transitioning to the A-10, the Warthog, from the F-16. And what I felt blessed is that usually when you do that, or you've been out for so long, you will drop a rank when you go in. And this time they let me keep the same rank because of manning. You know, they were needing the higher rank.
Folks. This is 2006.
2006.
Yeah, yeah.
So, of course, I'd been out for a while, even though I was going to do the same job. I had to go back to school.
Okay.
So I went to Shepherd Air Force Base in Wichita Falls, Texas, to go through the refresher training, basically.
Did you have to go through sort of a mini boot camp as well to kind of get back? Really?
No, being prior service, you don't have to.
Wow. Okay. Did it take a little while to readjust to being back in the military?
It did. Yeah. It did. But with the experience I've had with most of the branches of the military, and I get to an active duty Air Force base.
Yeah.
Even though it's a training base, I still couldn't believe how well they treated their personnel. It was like night and day compared to the Navy, Marines, and Army.
Yeah. Well, let me see. Yeah, I don't know anything about the Air Force or the Air Guard, but I know in the Navy, I think there were 90 of us living in what we called the coop. Yeah. Right, in these incredibly close quarters, a little bit more civilized for the Air Force guys.
Yeah, you're at the most in a 4-man room.
Yeah, yeah. Of course, you got 5,000 guys on a ship. There's not a whole lot of space, so you got to.
Right. My on the ships, my berthing was, I want to say 70 people.
Yeah. I was telling my wife recently, we kept the temperature down way low as well, because if if the temperature in the coop got above 60, it would just stink so bad.
Yeah, it would.
So we kept the temperature way down.
It would.
So you went in 2006. The war in Afghanistan, started not long after 9/11.
Right.
Iraq was going on. In 2006, I think most people were paying attention to Iraq, and in 2006, Iraq was a mess.
Right.
And so the military needs a lot of people. So in this, and you did 10 years in the Guard, then in the Air Guard, right, Arkansas Air Guard. So you deployed. Did you deploy to Iraq and Afghanistan, or just Afghanistan?
Just Afghanistan.
Okay. And how many times did you deploy?
3 times, 2010, 2012, and 13.
Wow, okay. So kind of, let me see, I'm trying to remember. That's certainly 2013, you're kind of getting close to, well, not the end, because the thing in Afghanistan is still going.
Right, yeah, it's still going.
But the end of kind of Afghanistan as a major...
It was, in 13, they were starting to talk about drawdown. They were taking a lot of folks out of country.
Yeah.
And then something happened and they started putting they were talking about shutting down Kandahar. Kandahar's not shut down.
Yeah.
It's still there. It's not a major fighter base now. It's more drone base.
Right.
Drone and Army.
Yeah, yeah.
So all the fighters and aircraft mainly moved up to the Bagram Air Base.
Okay. Well, let's look at a map here. So just tell us, you had 3 deployments to Afghanistan, roughly, or where were you in those?
In the 2010, 2013, I was in Kandahar, which is the southern region.
Yeah.
Then by the Helmand River and its tributaries.
Okay.
And then in 2012, it was Bagram, it was just 20 miles north of Kabul.
20 miles north of Kabul. Were you able to get off the base very much?
No. It wasn't like a protocol, I guess you could say, where you can just get off base. It was, you're the whole country is considered a combat zone.
Right.
You just don't go strolling off base, and the only ones that went off base were going on patrols.
Yeah. So you're in Afghanistan kind of physically, but it's an American bubble.
It's an American bubble, and we would get mortared and rocket attacked daily basis.
Yeah, really. So that's right. Now, is this the case with all 3 of the deployments?
Yes.
You get these mortar and rocket attacks.
Right. We've been there for 17 plus years now.
Yeah.
And the Taliban, they know how the rockets fly, where to hit them on the base. Mm-hmm. they target the flight line in the munitions area, which is where I worked. That's where you get the most of your incoming rockets.
Yeah. Did you have Afghans working on the base?
In Bagram, we did. They allowed 5,000 civilians on base a day.
Did you feel like the folks, the locals who came onto the base, that they could be trusted not to pass info to?
You didn't trust them.
Yeah.
You know, while I was there, they tried to poison the food in one of our dining facilities. There was one that was throwing a red pipe around, getting coordinates.
What was he doing?
He's taking a red pipe is big enough where someone outside the base could see it with binoculars, and they were writing coordinates down for targeting.
Oh, okay.
They knew he was doing it, and they were watching him for a while before they got a hold of him.
So this is an Afghan who's employed on the base?
Yes.
But he's obviously working for the other side.
Yes. They would. There was no self-help laundry, so you had to turn your clothes in to get them cleaned. And it's the Afghanis that washed them.
Yeah.
They would try to steal our uniforms, wear them outside underneath their clothes off base.
Yeah.
So I don't know why they allowed them to come on the base.
It just reminds me of Vietnam. Yeah, it's the same kind of stuff you hear about from Vietnam. I mean, that must have been weird, right? I mean, because there's all sorts of protocols about we've got the locals on the base, and we're supposed to treat them respectfully.
Right. You know, they're escorted to around for the most part. I was sitting in the dining facility eating and watching them glare at me. You know, it's just it's like you're on your toes the whole time because you didn't know what they were going to do.
Wow. They must have been searched before they came on the base.
I would hope so.
Yeah. Really? I mean, so in your three, this is just the one deployment where you've got locals on the base. There weren't really any of them that you kind of connected with.
No, there's a lot of Russian civilians that did things with the contractors on the base, and I got along more with them than I did the Afghanis. Russians, yeah.
Wow. Well, that's interesting because, of course, the Russians had been there before we were.
Yeah.
You know, back.
And they're civilians that are running the trucks. You know, the supply trucks, the septic tank pump trucks.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, the porta potty pump trucks. You know, stuff like that.
Russians were doing that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's in Bagram that KBR was the contractor, and of course they'll subcontract out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I forget who was in Kandahar, but we didn't use any locals there. They used Malaysians. Malaysians on base.
Is it now? Were these bases? You know, I've talked to guys from Iraq, and the guys who are in Iraq talk about basically you've got Subway sandwich, Kentucky Fried Chicken, Pizza Hut. I mean, is all this stuff set up?
You would have that in Kandahar. There's a boardwalk area that was basically this big square boardwalk. In the center, you had the Canadians. They built a quarter-sized concrete hockey rink.
The Canadians.
And they would run around in tennis shoes and hitting this little red ball around.
Yeah.
There's basketball courts. There's flag football, and you had all the different restaurants. We even had the TGIF.
Really?
But
I agree.
The cost was ridiculous because of how they had to ship the foods in, and it was hit and miss on what you could get off the menu because of the supply.
Oh.
You know, they wouldn't have the ingredients for half the stuff.
So it was pretty expensive. Yeah. Do you happen to know if the Canadians brought in a donut place called Tim Hortons?
Tim Hortons was there, and it's some good coffee. So was Green Bean. Green Bean's good.
Green Bean. I don't know that, but in Canada, Tim Hortons is almost a religion. I think.
Yeah.
I don't know why. But
yeah.
So they brought that in. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Who else did you? So you've got Canadian forces there. You've got Malaysian civilians. You've got Russian civilians. And most Americans forget Afghanistan really wasn't an American war.
It's NATO. It's NATO. We have the Germans, the Brits, the Australians, the French, the Italians.
Really?
I could keep going.
Yeah.
And they're all set up to do different things, either the base security or going out on patrols.
Yeah. Were the Germans in combat roles as well?
I believe there was. I know there was a Dutch. I know there was Dutch there. I don't remember seeing any Germans.
I've seen video of Dutch special forces out there. So, well, let's go through some of your photos here that you've shared with us. What is just sort of tell us?
That photo.
Here.
See that photo is a trailer load of a GB-38. So it's a GPS guided weapon that it has a sensor on the nose, and the one in the center has a Razorback painted on it, which is real similar to the Razorbacks or the hog face that we have on the A-10 aircraft.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Those are 500 pounders.
Wow. And
once you put all the components on it, it's a little more than 500.
Wow. Now, what plane are those?
These can be flown on anything that's has the programming for a GPS guided weapon. Okay. This could be on the A-10, the F-15, the F-16,
wow,
the B-52.
Really? So how many, you said F-16?
Or the A-10.
The A-10, how many of these could an A-10 carry?
A war load would be 6.
6, okay. And so the pilot just basically plugs in the coordinates, the GPS coordinates, and presses the button.
Right, the target coordinates. We program we have a program, we just program the fin that's basically like a Garmin.
Yeah, yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
And then the pilot puts in the coordinates of the target, and it will go through a window.
Yeah, wow, that's something. So you've got now that's the University of Arkansas Razorback.
Yeah, right? The Arkansas Razorbacks, yeah.
So did you guys ever write any messages on the bombs as well? Or
yes.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay. What kind of messages are you allowed to say?
Well, some are not so nice, and we'll just leave it at that.
Okay, that's fine. Let's go to the next one. Here, what are we looking at here?
Over here, the bomb that's on the table in the back, I got the seeker head on it. That's a GB-12 laser guided. The plane can target what we call paint the target, or someone on the ground can paint the target.
What does that mean?
Is the laser. We're pointing a laser at the target.
Oh, wow.
And this bomb will hit the laser point.
Wow, that's amazing.
So every now and then we have to test them, or if the plane throws a code and then it says that's a weapon malfunction, then we'll bring it back and test it and to see if that portion I'm testing right there is bad or good, or it could be an aircraft issue.
Okay. Now, how long were these three different deployments? How long were the deployments?
I was the first 2 deployments. I was in there 6 to 8 months. Mm-hmm. And then the last one's only 3 months.
So the first was 6, the second was 8, and then the last was 3.
Yes.
Yeah. Email access and all that?
Email access good.
Yeah.
In 2010, like Wi-Fi is a big thing now.
Yeah.
2010, not so good.
Oh, okay.
In fact, our MWR Wi-Fi was so bad that basically 3 people got on it and it would shut itself down.
That's right, yeah.
Well, the Dutch had a compound on the backside of the boardwalk, and they have a restaurant there, which is pretty good. Mm-hmm. And they were selling internet cards. Oh, really? So I bought an internet card, and it lasted me, and I could sit on the boardwalk and have internet access. Yeah. Wasn't the best, but I could somewhat Skype with it. Mm-hmm. In 2012, we didn't have. You could have internet in your rooms if you wanted to pay it, but I would just walk to the MWR, which it was better then. And then in 2013, we actually had Wi-Fi, free Wi-Fi in the place, in the rooms where we stayed on the base, right?
So I'm interested in this because you and I went in the Navy the same year, '86, mm-hmm. And so you remember being on the carrier. You hear the bell, mail call, and there's a jolt of excitement, right?
Yeah.
Because, this is back in the day where you send a letter and you wait 2 weeks at best to, get that letter back, right?
Yeah, depending on the schedule of the mail getting to the ship.
So just the excitement of mail call and then how deflated you'd feel if you didn't get any mail, and how has email and the internet, how has that changed? Sort of the deployment, and if you deploy in '86, '87, '88, back in the time, then you not only are you're leaving home in pretty much every respect, right? I mean, you can't call, communication is handwritten, and it takes weeks, and that was normal.
Yeah, when I got out of the Navy, they just had satellite phones where you get a calling card. They just put what we call the golf ball on the angle deck, just below the level of the angle deck, and if the ship is pointing the right way, we can make phone calls.
Okay. How did Wi-Fi and all that sort of change how a deployment feels, or?
It made it more bearable. Yeah. I mean, in 2010, I mean, you got basically 3 years there difference, and it's unbelievable the quality of life had improved. Went from intense, being flooded out in the desert, intense.
Yeah,
during spring storm.
Yeah.
To going to basically a 2-story bunker in Bagram, to these basically Connexes in Kandahar in 2013 that had what we call the Hollywood showers and actual toilets, except on that wasn't in a porta potty in the heat. Good air conditioning.
Yeah.
You wake up, when the other unit went out, your 4-man room went to a 2-man room, and you were on opposite shifts. So basically, you had your own room.
Yeah.
Getting up, turn the computer on, Skype with your family before you went to work, or when you got back.
Sure.
It was
that's totally different.
Yeah, I mean, it was amazing. It made it more bearable.
Yeah, I bet that's right. Now you mentioned that when you're on the base, the mortars would come in. How often roughly would that happen?
Every day.
On average?
Every day.
Every day.
Sometimes twice a day or more.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, how far away are they shooting these things?
In Kandahar, there's Kandahar Mountain, where most of the fire would come from.
Yeah.
And in Bagram, I worked nights, so when it got slow, I'd go up on a revetment and just watch, because you can see villages, you can see the lights and stuff. You can see car headlights on Highway 1. You will see one stop, a flash, you're getting attacked.
So they'd launch a mortar and then probably take off because they knew they'd send out a helo or something.
Or they set up off base, within range and send out a salvo. You get one, you can get up to a dozen.
Yeah, yeah. So what are the years you're there again?
2010, 12, and 13.
So, I mean, just the fact that you're going back, those, and then it had been going 5 years before you got there. You're making 3 separate trips back. How did that war look to you? I mean, as you're going back, let's say you go back for the second time. Did you feel like, okay, we're making progress, like things are going well? You go back the third time and you say, wow, okay, I mean, I can really see that things are going well? Or, just, as you sort of compare trip 2 with trip 1, trip 3 with trip 1 and 2.
To me, what
did the war look like to you?
There's no difference.
Really, yeah.
No difference. The NATO rules of engagement are horrible. You can see, I talk to soldiers, I talk to pilots, they can see the Taliban, but they can't do anything to them until they're fired upon first.
Mm-hmm.
This is what's dragging this thing on for this long, is the NATO rules of engagement.
Mm-hmm.
We do our best to limit civilian casualties. War's hell.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to limit or get rid of civilian casualties when the enemy's using them for human shields.
Exactly. That's right.
If we were allowed to go in and do this the right way, we would have been out there years ago.
Mm-hmm. It sounds a lot like what you hear from vets in Vietnam.
It's the politicians.
Yeah. Yeah, guys in Vietnam, I'm thinking of one vet. He's on the south side of the DMZ. He said we could see North Vietnamese soldiers on the north side of the DMZ setting up, getting ready to hit us. We knew it. We weren't allowed to hit them, because of the rules of engagement, these crazy rules of engagement. that are just frustrating. And of course, the enemy knows what the American rules or what the NATO rules of engagement are, and totally take advantage of it, right?
Yeah, Taliban same way. They set up the rockets. They can set them on timers. I've heard that they'll take a block of ice and use it as a timer.
Really?
They'll throw a tarp over them while they're setting this whole thing up. We know what they're doing, but we can't see them do it. We can't do a thing about it.
Jeez, that's crazy. Did any of the was there any firefights or anything like that, or was it always long distance?
It's long distance. Every now and then you'll start hearing some small arms fires just off base.
Like maybe some guys out on patrol.
Right. You know, at night you didn't hear the small arms during the day. It was always at night.
Yeah.
They're always popping flare out there trying to see what's going on.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Let's look at some of your other photos. What are we looking at here?
Hey, this is going to be our entrance to our munitions area, and I want to say we probably just got done with an attack. And if we have credible intel that we're going to be attacked on a regular basis, then they'll require us to wear our battle rattle at all times.
So you've got on a vest, helmet, obviously.
Right.
And your weapon's an M16 there?
That is an M16 right there. And as you can see, there's no magazine in it because in 2010 they would not allow us to see the magazine.
So what are you supposed to do? What's the point of having the weapon?
We carried the magazines in our pockets.
Oh, so you've got the magazine.
Yeah,
you have a magazine.
We have the magazines with us, but they're not in. They're not seated.
Unless you come under fire.
Right.
Wow. Let's see. What are we looking at?
In 2010, this Kandahar is built in a dried up lake bed.
Yeah.
Where all our tents were is in the dried up riverbed. It rained one day and night, and this is what happened with 2 to 3 feet of water all over base.
God grief. How long did it take for that to clear out?
Overnight.
Really?
It didn't take long.
It just drained?
It just drained off. It didn't take long. And the thing is, the soil over there is so high in clay content that it doesn't soak in the soil. It just runs off.
Just runs off. Wow.
And when it dries out, it's just like talcum powder. It just gets in everything. Just walking down the road, you create your own dust storm like pigpen.
Yeah. And when you, on these 3 deployments, were you there during different seasons, or were you the seasons must have changed while you were there?
Yes. In 2010, we got there in January through midsummer. Mm-hmm. In Bagram, we got there, I want to say it's April through fall. And then in Kandahar, it was summer.
Yeah. Weather pretty extreme, or there are nice stretches?
Well, the rain was pretty extreme. Otherwise, it's sunny, it's hot, it's windy. Okay. In Bagram in the summer, it's 120 days of wind.
Oh, really? Wow.
It's constant wind, so bad that when the planes take off, as soon as they get off the runway, they tilt the wing into the wind just so they can stay on course.
Jeez. Wow. Let's look at another couple photos here. What are we looking at here?
Here we have Afghan civilians just outside our wire.
Yeah.
They're begging for anything.
So they're begging. Are they? I'm surprised these locals were able to get that close. Were they checked or something? They
weren't checked, but if you see the big cables going along the bottom of the fence and through the top, that's motion sensors. Which, if someone tries to climb on the fence, it sets off alarms. There's guard towers.
Yeah.
All around the base.
So
someone's watching them.
Has them.
Yeah, someone's watching them.
Yeah. Okay. So they're just you took this photo?
I took that photo on. I was on a bus going somewhere on base.
Okay. And so they're just sitting out there begging and just watching what's going on.
Yeah, I think they're more than watching than begging.
Yeah. Maybe gathering some info for
I wouldn't doubt it.
For their homies?
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it.
Boy, look at that terrain, too.
This Kandahar area, nothing's green.
Wow. Let's see. Okay.
And that's a dust storm. I don't remember what year that was taken.
Mm. Now you mentioned, where was it? Were you 120 days of wind or something?
Yeah, yes, that would be in Bagram.
So is that what this is here?
It could be.
Yeah. But I mean, so when you got the wind kicking up, this is what you're looking at a lot of the time?
Yeah, and it doesn't take a lot of wind to do that.
Because the dust is so
It's just the dust is so fine.
Wow, yeah. So, I mean, what measures could you take to keep that stuff out of your living quarters and out of the...
It didn't stay out of our living quarters. It got in the food. It got in everything. We would wear masks. I had what I call the neck sock that I would put across my mouth and nose to try to keep the dirt out. And
wow.
Yeah, you don't keep this stuff out of anything.
Did you ever have any of these storms that were so significant that the sun actually, it gets actually pretty dark because the sun is...
That's about as dark as it would get.
Okay. Yeah, I've seen examples from Iraq where it just gets pitch black because it's just so thick.
And this is our munitions area the day after all the rain. And that pallet that you see on the right-hand side is actually floating in the water.
Oh, good.
And those are empty containers, but it's floating.
Yeah, wow. What are we looking at there?
That's one of our, that's our A-10.
Uh-huh. Now this is Arkansas Air Guard?
This is Arkansas Air Guard, and when we came back from the 2012, within 30 days of us returning, we were informed that we're losing the A-10s and going to a drone mission. My job on that base disappeared.
Oh, did
it was either cross-training to something else or transfer, and I transferred to the 138th Fighter Wing out of Tulsa, which is the F-16s.
Okay. Oh, so you were with the Oklahoma Guard then for how many years?
Since May of 13.
So was it with them then that you deployed the third time?
Right. I went home a full year, and I was going back over.
Wow. So you deployed twice with Arkansas
and once with Tulsa.
Once with Tulsa, Oklahoma. Wow. How was the relationship between the active duty and the Guard on the base?
It was good. We all had a job to do. Mm-hmm. And we worked together. You would have active duty traditionally doesn't like Guard because they say we're not the professionals, we're just weekend warriors.
Yeah.
But the thing is, every drill, every time we do something stateside, we are training and doing what we do in war.
Sure. Yeah.
So we were constantly training. We have pride in our product. I mean, just an example in Bagram, we built over 500 of those bombs.
Wow.
No, I'll take it back. 600. Almost 600. They dropped 500. Not one dudded.
Not one dud.
Not one dud. We take pride in our work.
Sure. Yeah.
Everything. The rockets we put together.
Yeah.
Getting the bullets ready for the 30 mil gun that's on that plane.
Yeah.
The missiles they would carry. Everything we did with pride.
Yeah. So you deliver and the active duty are like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they're getting the job done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we got relieved out there, one of the active duties that came from Germany, one of the kids was saying, they're not professionals. They don't know what they're doing. And that just didn't sit well with me. I just had words with him, set him straight.
That's good. Was he junior to you?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he didn't know I could hear him.
So he had to listen.
Yeah, he had to listen real good.
All right. Let's see what you got here.
This is one of the tents we lived in.
Now this is early. This is early.
This is early. This is 2000. Deployment. Right, 2010. You can see how crowded it is in there.
Wow.
If you work nights trying to sleep in that, it's basically daylight in there.
Because the sun's up.
Yeah. I mean that's no lights. That's the sun coming through the tent.
Oh, you're working nights.
It's a canvas tent. The air conditioner. If the air conditioner quit, it would quickly climb into the 100s.
Oh man.
It would be cooler sitting out in the sun outside the tent than it is inside.
Yeah, probably you got a little bit of a breeze at least outside.
Yeah.
Something like that. So you're trying to sleep in there working nights. That never worked, did it? I mean,
Not really.
you doze off a little bit here and there.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, you're constantly tired. Not enough sleep.
Oh, that's awful.
And then, you know, with the attacks going on at night too, you know, the other shift wouldn't get good sleep either.
Yeah.
Because every time the sirens would go off, they'd have to jump out of their bunks, hit the floor, then go find a bunker.
Yeah.
You know, wait until all clear, which could be an hour or so later.
Wow. Did any of the incoming ever hit fairly close to where you were?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were after this flood, we were cleaning off the 30 mil, the big 30 mil cans would have wheat poles in the bottom for condensation drainage. Well, the water and the mud got up in there. Well, we can't load dirty rounds in the gun because you know what happens when we put dirt in the gun, it jams.
Sure.
So we were having to clean all this off, and we had a rocket attack, and we had one hit the pad that we were on.
Wow.
And fortunately, it didn't go off.
Wow.
Because it would have lit a lot of stuff off on that pad.
I bet.
But the operating instruction was, you lay down for 2 minutes beyond the last explosion you hear, then go find a bunker. Well, I got a string of firecrackers laid out here.
Yeah, right.
HEI, high explosive incendiary rounds, the 30 mil. Rocket hits that string, they're all going to go off as chain reaction. I told everybody to get in the bunker.
Yeah,
as soon as we all got in the bunker, I made sure my last person was in. I stepped in, the rocket hits.
Really? And it all went up.
It would have gone up. It hit where we would have laid down.
Oh, okay, yeah. But that turned out to be the dud.
That was the dud. That was the dud.
Yeah. Really?
We've had them come in close enough where it just hits equipment. Fortunately, nothing has ever hit a stack of munitions. Yeah. It's always hit the open areas of the munitions area. There's planes that have been peppered out on the flight line, but nothing direct hit.
Wow.
Did see a truck in Bagram get hit directly. A pickup truck sitting out in the middle of the flight line, perfect hit.
Wow.
Hit the truck.
Anybody in it?
No, there's no one in it.
Oh, good, yeah.
All the dining facilities have blast walls in them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Really?
Yeah, shoulder height blast walls. Yeah. You've got sections you send in, and they're all separated by blast walls.
If a mortar or a rocket's coming in, do you have any warning other than just the sound of the thing itself?
If the system works right, we'll catch a warning before it hits.
Yeah. Okay.
As the sirens go off. Yeah. Usually we'll hear the first two come over, then the siren goes off.
So radar will intercept so that something's coming in, and then...
Now they have, I think they call it the ARAMs now. I could be wrong on that.
Yeah.
But it's basically set up like the Sea Whiz on the ships, but they have them out there on the bases now shooting these things out of the air, and they get about 90% of them.
Sort of anti-missile.
Yeah.
Things. Yeah.
It's like an anti-mortar or something or other.
Yeah, we had those on the carriers. I remember we used to use those. What are we looking at here?
We're in a fighting post, and that would be Kandahar.
Okay. So this is just sort of lookout, a guard.
Well, we have fighting posts. If we get the bases under attack alarm, then we have certain fighting posts we go to.
Oh, okay.
And so we got the
kind of
alarm.
Like terminal quarters kind of thing.
Yeah.
In the Navy.
Yeah.
Okay. So your post is to grab your M16 and head there.
This is Bagram. That building in the back is actually a tent with about 2 feet of foam sprayed on it.
Oh, jeez. Wow. What's the foam for?
Insulation.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
As in Bagram, it does snow there.
Yeah.
It will snow because the mountains you see in the background, when we got there, the snow line was pretty close to the valley.
Okay.
It went up to this one peak, and when we left, it was coming back down.
Yeah. We've seen that one. What about this one?
Yeah, this is Bagram 2. We finishing up a build.
And
yes, that's Bagram 2. That's just a different view of our area.
Yeah. When you
and that trailer has 4 2,000 pounders.
Yeah.
And there's
2,000 pounds.
and there's a pallet of 500 pounders sitting next to it. We were probably doing some maintenance on the components.
Wow. When the pilot sends those things off to the target, how far can they travel? What's their
They can glide. They can glide for a little way.
Yeah.
I don't know what the glide range
What
is.
exactly it is, yeah.
But they can glide as the back fins will move.
Yeah.
And they kind of glide it in, and at final it steers it right to the target.
Yeah. When you hear, I mean, the news from Afghanistan now is that, I mean, I just saw it in the newspaper today, there was some incident in Afghanistan, but, you know, the war in Afghanistan usually is on like page 4, page 5, usually it's some small thing.
Yeah.
We had a few U.S. KIA killed in action about a month ago, something like that, 5-6 weeks ago. Negotiations with the Taliban. The Taliban now controls, I think, roughly half the country.
Again.
Yeah, when you hear that, you know, when you hear that kind of stuff, you know, that the Taliban controls half the country, that the government of Afghanistan just seems to be corrupt and
very much so. We go in, the Army and Marines go in, they take control of a portion of the country, secure it, start doing some infrastructure work out there, turn it over to Afghanis. The Taliban just come right back in. The Afghanis, I don't think they care.
Yeah.
They don't care enough to fight.
Right. So the Taliban is really motivated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we could dig a well for a village, and the Taliban's going to come in and throw a dead goat down it and poison it. Yeah. They rule by fear.
Yeah.
And everybody's afraid of them.
Yeah.
The Afghani government's so corrupt, they cannot supply their troops with the stuff they need to combat him.
So the corrupt government of Afghanistan does not have the loyalty of a lot of just the locals.
No.
And so those
look how many billions of dollars we've poured in the government of Afghanistan, and what's the end result? There's nothing new out there.
Yeah.
Where's that money going?
Yeah. It just sounds so much like Vietnam. You know, in Vietnam, the enemy was highly motivated, whereas the folks we're fighting with, the Vietnamese we're fighting with, most of them are not motivated. Mm-hmm. They're not committed to their own government because their own government was so corrupt. So this is the problem, right? Mm-hmm. Our allies is a corrupt government who doesn't have the loyalty of the people, fighting an enemy that's very motivated, right? And then you throw in these rules of engagement. There's so many similarities, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever talked to a Vietnam vet and sort of compared stories, but there's so many similarities, you know. Did you know, when you're there, 2010, 2013, did the idea kind of go through your mind, like, this place, kind of regardless of what we do, the folks here don't seem to really want to do whatever's necessary to make this a decent country?
That's what I think.
Yeah.
I mean, when I first started going to Afghanistan, I did a lot of research. That was a beautiful country before Russians got a hold of it.
Yeah.
I mean, they had a ski resort, orchards, vineyards. It's just beautiful country. Now look at it.
Yeah, I mean, they've been in a state of war since 1979, huh?
Yeah, since the Russians invaded them.
Yeah, yeah.
And when the Russians pulled out, it left a vacuum.
Right.
And then you had Al-Qaeda, the Taliban come in.
Yeah. Yeah, which then gets us to 9/11, which then gets us to you know, the war in Afghanistan, which continues, to this time. And so I mean, when you left Afghanistan then for the last time in 2013, I mean, did you feel at all hopeful, like maybe this country can get its act together? And
you look at the news and you see the progress made.
Yeah.
And then you see it go away. It's like now they're pulling the Afghan troops away from their outposts on their borders and stuff back to the main bases because they're getting attacked, to where you only have 4 or 5 Afghanis manning a post, and wondering why you know, the post is getting taken out when
You're
getting overran.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, no wonder the Army doesn't want to do anything. They're undermanned, they're underfunded, they're not supplied well.
Yeah. I think certainly what can be said is that NATO forces, U.S. being the main contributor there, but NATO forces, you know, well, I mean, I was going to use past tense, they gave the country a shot. I mean, they're still there, you know, trying to give the country a shot. But if the locals aren't invested in the fight, it's just not going to happen.
You know, it's like Iraq. I mean, you look at the success of Iraq. Yeah, there's still issues there, but look at the success of it.
Relative to Afghanistan,
right?
Yeah, at least it's an identifiable country, right? Yeah, and somewhat functional. Yeah, that's something. Well, let's see. So we've got this photo here that we'll end up with. So the experience in you know, interesting. The Vietnam, Iraq. Iraq's a bit different. Iraq and Afghanistan. Vietnam, Afghanistan, you know, these are disappointing experiences, right? Because I think in all cases, you know, it's complicated. You can debate all sorts of things, but you know, I think you can make a case that, look, I mean, you know, we went into South Vietnam, we went into Afghanistan not because we wanted to make colonies of those places, right?
Right.
Whatever else was going on, one of the things that was going on is we did want to help those folks have a shot at having a better country, right?
Right, and I believe that we went into Afghanistan with the same thoughts, not only to try to make the country back the way it was, but to prevent another 9/11.
Right. Yeah. Of course, that problem has gone global now. I mean, I've heard about a big drone base now we're building in Niger, and you know, so the war on terrorism, it's not front and center in our minds the way it was. And it's 15 years
fanatics,
ago,
it's these fanatics of any religion has their fanatics.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to knock Islam, I'm not going to knock Christianity.
Right.
It's not my job.
Yeah.
My job is to protect people.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. But when you have a fanatic group starts in the country, then that country doesn't put the foot down on it. This is what we get.
Yeah, if you don't have buy-in from the locals, then you know it's just not going to work. And yeah, we've seen that. But let's go back to this photo. So I mean, we do have these discouraging episodes, but you know. The country did not invade Afghanistan because there was a great outcry to let's invade someplace, and it just happens to be Afghanistan. We were hit on 9/11, and that's where it originated. Yeah. But you know, anyway, I'm just looking at this photo. So the case of Afghanistan, at least as of now, is a discouraging one. But would you encourage young folks to think about military service?
Definitely.
You know?
Definitely.
Yeah, so you've got the discouraging experience of the particular case of Afghanistan, which I don't think is the fault of the U.S. military.
I've had a rewarding career. I wouldn't change anything different.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to get deployed to places you don't want to.
Yeah.
But don't join the military because someone talks you into it. You'll want to have to do this to make it, you know, to make it worthwhile.
Yeah, yeah. What are some of the benefits? I mean, say, you know, some 19-year-old is asking you, you know, what are the...
Your college is paid for.
Yeah.
It's paid for. I mean, I hate to say this, but the last couple of years I was in, we had lost so many of the young guys because they graduated out of their 4-year college, you know, debt-free. But they didn't want to stay in. Yeah. So we lost a lot of good people.
And they'd gotten that,
they got that free education. They got that free education, and
and also the experiences.
The experiences. If you get the right jobs, that correlates over into civilian jobs that can pay well. You know, anything that, you know. Right now, drones are a big thing. You go in the military, get in the drone program. Whether you're maintaining drones or flying them or whatever, that's where everything's going.
Yeah.
And you want to make the big money getting the drones. If you like aircraft, get on the aircraft maintenance side of it.
Sure.
You don't do what I did. Explosives, there's not a lot to do.
Or what I did, like a radar on an aircraft carrier, it's just not transferable to the civilian economy.
Right.
Yeah, be a little bit smarter that way.
Mm-hmm.
But you can learn a good job. You can have experiences, in normal life you don't get to experience, just all the stuff you experienced, even just being stuck on the base in Afghanistan. Plus, life on an aircraft carrier, as when they pull that anchor up and the carrier's out, it's just a completely different world.
It is. You're out there in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah.
You may see your escorts. You may not see your escorts.
Yeah. So you have all sorts of unique experiences, and then the benefits are great.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Well, Jack, I really appreciate you taking the time to tell us about some of your experiences. Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great.